And now, Dr. Heather Addison.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Heather Addison, and I'm the chair of the Department of Film at UNLV. It is a distinct pleasure to welcome you all from your homes or wherever you may be tuning in to the 4th annual UNLV Film Honors Celebration, a special opportunity for us to recognize our award winners and graduates for 2019-2020. Thank you all for being here. We have 3 student speeches, film studies and screenwriting awards, a keynote speech from our special guest, Eduardo Mayen, a tribute to our graduates from the entire department, and a roll call for all of our graduates for fall 2019 and spring 2020. Before we get started with our first student speech, I would like to introduce the Dean of the College of Fine Arts, Nancy Usher, who will say a word of welcome.
Heather, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with all of you tonight. I'm so proud of the Department of Film, and I'm proud that you're doing this honor celebration in a way that is very unusual, which mirrors the unusual times in which we're living. But I'm so happy that you decided to do it, even though we can't be face to face, because it's very important. In fact, it's never been more important that we try to get together however we can and honor our students and also, by the way, our faculty and our leadership in the Department of Film. So I just want to say that it's a very moving evening for me to be able to hear the words of our students and our faculty, and to look at the bright future that all of you have, no matter what happens in our world. And there's a lot of uncertainty. One thing I am very certain about is all the great contributions that you're going to be making, and I couldn't be prouder. Thank you so much for this opportunity to say hello.
Thank you, Dean Usher. I would like to jumpstart our honors celebration by inviting James Warren, one of our outstanding graduates from fall 2019, to speak. James Thomas Warren graduated summa cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts in Film in December 2019. He'd like to thank his mentors, Professor Michael Tylo and Professor Charles Burmeister, for making a difference in his education and professional journey as a screenwriter and filmmaker. James is currently a creative writer at Clayco for Spy Ninjas, a YouTube series which has an audience of several million kids every week. Welcome, James.
Greetings, everyone, and good evening. It's an honor for me to be speaking here tonight in front of an audience of friends, colleagues, and mentors. I'd like to take a moment to thank Dr. Addison and everyone involved for putting this together and giving me a reason to wear something other than pajama pants. When I received my invitation from Dr. Addison to speak, I was so proud and excited that I immediately said yes. I thought, what a great opportunity for me to have a moment where I can express how much my experience at this university has changed my life. You know, a moment to tell you fine people how much I've enjoyed working with you and learning from you, and just how much I admire your courage and tenacity to do the same. Then, 2 days ago, I found out that I would be the proverbial icebreaker here, and I immediately began to question the logic and reasoning of my decision. Nevertheless, my decision has been made, and the moment is happening now, for better or for worse. So here I am, live and direct, invading the privacy of your homes. As a filmmaker, I'm a firm believer in the moment. Actors focus on being in them. Directors and cinematographers capture them. Editors organize and emphasize them. Literally every aspect of production is designed for these moments to happen. And why do we do this? What's the point? Well, we do it because when these moments finally make it to the screen, We want the audience to get lost in them. We want them to connect. We want them to believe. We want them to believe that demogorgons are real. We want them to believe in the Force. We want them to believe that a small town sheriff, a drunken sailor, and a marine biologist can defeat a giant man-eating shark. Now, to believe is to accept something as truth. And it's only when we capture these moments that tell the truth of the story that the audience will then believe. When I think back at the truth of my story here at UNLV, I remember many moments. Just deciding to go to film school to learn how to become a screenwriter was a big moment. I had to quit my job, had to move to Las Vegas, and completely start over. But I did it. And here, being surrounded by like-minded individuals, I decided to capture and create as many moments as I could. I didn't always succeed, and that's okay. Failure raises the stakes and makes your story more interesting. I remember the feeling I had when I walked into my first class. It was overwhelming to think how much time it would take me to graduate. And when I finally did graduate in December, I remember thinking, man, that went by so fast. And I'm sure a lot of you are probably thinking back on your time here at UNLV, thinking of all the assignments and papers and countless hours spent on set, editing, running lines, all of the above, all of the friends you've made, going to class, not going to class, trying to find a parking space, working some crappy job so you could pay the rent, taking tests, finals, midterms. Let's face it, going to school and graduating is a lot of work, and you should all be very proud. Now, I challenge you, though, not to think in terms of how much you've done while you were here, but rather think in terms of how much you've changed as a person. Those are the moments that are telling the truth of your story and are what will make an audience believe in you. Sitting here tonight and being honored for your achievements, this is one of those moments. And you're sharing it with an audience that believes in you. They're your friends. They're your family, your peers, your mentors, even me. I believe in you. These people that you've shared those moments, these are people that you've shared those moments of change with. In closing, I would like to leave you with this. Life is a series of finite moments that are gone as quickly as they arrive. Do not wait for them. Go out there and capture the moments necessary to tell the truth of your story. And when things get hard and you feel like quitting or giving up, which will happen, life is difficult, this industry is difficult. Keep this in mind. And remember, keep this moment in mind. And remember that there is an audience out there that believes in you. Thank you.
Yay. Oh, so is everybody's audio unmuted now?
Yeah.
Hey.
Thank you, James. That was an amazing kickoff, and I knew you could do that. Thank you. Next, we have the Wegner Award. Professor Emeritus Dr. Hart Wegner, who founded the film program at UNLV, and his wife Winnie, established the Hart and Winnie Wegner Award for Film Studies to recognize outstanding achievement in the area of cinema studies. Oh, and there he is, Dr. Wegner. Hello, hello, Dr. Wegner. For the For the 2020 essay competition, we asked students to choose one of two films selected by Dr. Wegner, Vertigo or The Searchers, and tell us why it may be worthy of attention. Authors could approach the film from any perspective that they chose. We were looking for dynamic voices and inventive, well-developed arguments. The review committee consisted of Jason Edmiston, Keenan Diaz, and myself. I'd like to thank Professors Edmiston and Diaz for their hard work in reading and evaluating our submissions, which are judged blindly. without identifying information about the authors. For the 2020 Wegner Award in Film Studies goes to John Hunt for his essay, Editing in Vertigo. Now, do we have John? I don't know if John is with us this evening. So I am just going to read his tribute and we are going to thank John. John's essay offers a detailed, perceptive, expert analysis of shot relationships that connect stylistic choices with nuanced rhythms and visual metaphors developed in the film. Here's a quote from the author's work. In the final bell tower scene, we see the culmination of the spiral movement pattern established in an early scene at Ernie's restaurant. But now, instead of cuts, there is a long take in which the characters are physically moving around a set of spiral stairs. Where once the two main characters were separate, now they are together. These characters have been joined in the same shot with the same action. Where once they were operating under mutual pretexts, now everything is revealed. End quote. Thank you, John, so much for your third place entry in the Hart and Vinnie Wegner Award for 2020. Congratulations, John. Next, we have second place for the 2020 Hart and Winnie Wegner Award. Second place for this award goes to Cole Greenberg for the enduring gaze mise en scène in Vertigo. Do we have Cole Greenberg? There he is. This essay is a deep and memorable dive into the hypnotic mise en scène of the film, from its close study of the human face to its haunting and effective use of San Francisco locations. Here is a quote from Cole Greenberg's work. In the long sequence in which Detective John Scotty Ferguson first follows Madeline Ulster, the subject of his investigation, lines of dialogue are scarce, giving the illusion that little may be happening, but actually everything is happening. Like the fog that rolls into San Francisco every morning, it is here where the obsessive and spiraling mood that ultimately comes to fruition begins to develop. End quote. Congratulations, Cole. Can we all have a round of applause for our award winner? Congratulations on a stunning essay.
Well, thanks, guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have first place for the Hart and Winnie Wegner Award for 2020. First place goes to Hannah Tran for Chasing a Ghost, the creation and destruction of the archetypal woman as displayed through the feminine paradigms in Vertigo. Now, do we have Hannah? Oh, yes, we have Hannah with us. So can we go to Hannah? Yes. I have a few more things to say about Hannah. For those of you keeping track, Hannah also won first place for the Wegner Award in 2018 for her essay on Paris, Texas, and first place in 2019 for her essay on Stop Making Sense. Now, I feel this would be a good moment to reiterate the point that the review process for evaluating the Wegner essays is blind. All names are removed before the judges receive the submissions. Hannah's first place win 3 years in a row is entirely due to her outstanding skills as a writer and scholar. Hannah's essay is a fascinating meditation on the feminine archetypes that underpin Madeline Ulster, a woman whose elusive and illusory construction both embraces and reveals the discriminatory practices of the patriarchy, especially as they existed in mid-20th century America. Here is a quote from Hannah's work. We open with a man running. Running turns into chasing, and the chasing never ends. This is the story of Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, which, simply put, is the story of a man chasing a woman who is running from the collection of women inside her. Within the urban sprawl, ancient forests, and colonial memories that haunt Hitchcock's fantastical vision of San Francisco, this woman in question embodies the collapse of seemingly primordial archetypes and the then modern gender roles built upon them. End quote. Congratulations, Hannah. Can we have an extra loud round of applause for
Excellent, excellent.
Congratulations. Thank you, Dr. Wegner, for sponsoring. Yay. do have one more Wegner Award to give. Our Wegner Critical Writing in the Arts Award recognizes critical analytical writing by graduate students that addresses any area of fine visual or media arts. It is sponsored by the UNLV College of Fine Arts, and the winner receives $1,000. Students in any graduate degree program in the College of Fine Arts at UNLV may apply, and submissions are evaluated blindly. Now to this year's winner. The winner of the Wegner Award for Critical Writing in the Arts for 2020 is Chance Pryor for One Black Narrative. This is a poetic and powerfully written personal essay that wrestles with fundamental and complex issues of representation. It provides a strong summation of the writer's experiences as a student and as an educator developing a teaching philosophy of her own. Here is a quote from Chance's work. Have you ever asked yourself, why are popular films like Boys in the Hood that focus on gang culture the experiences that garner attention, that are given a platform, that bask in the limelight? Future generations should get a chance to analyze art beyond gang culture or white classics. Children of color should get a chance to study all of themselves and use their experiences as markers for accurate representation. End quote. Congratulations, Chance. Can we have a round of applause for Ms. Pryor? Congratulations, Chance. Thank you, Dr. Wegner.
Right. Congratulations.
Next, we have one of our outstanding graduates for spring 2020, Kyla Christina, or Kai Guerrero, who will talk to us for about 5 minutes. In her time here at UNLV, Kai dedicated herself to honing her skills in film editing. From the moment she cut and edited together celluloid film in her Production 1 class with Professor Edmiston, she knew that this was the position she wanted to pursue in the industry. As an undergraduate at UNLV, she's gotten to be an editor on projects from student films to commercial work for events like CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, and NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters Convention, and even has a feature credit in alumni Drea Walters' film, Empty by Design. She also had the opportunity to get in the director's chair and direct a short film for the Las Vegas Film Festival's Young Cinema Lab. After graduation, Kai will be continuing her work with Shoreline Entertainment, a film sales company, at their Las Vegas office. Welcome, Kai. Yay!
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here spending this evening with all of you, despite it having to be through virtual means. When Dr. Addison emailed me asking me to speak at this year's honor celebration as a graduating senior, I didn't really know where to start. The past 4 years have flown by so fast that this semester didn't even feel like it was my last semester. But I suppose I'll start with my thank yous. So first and foremost, I want to thank my family. I want to thank my parents for taking a chance on me going to film school despite the classic Filipino kid trope of like studying to become a nurse or a doctor. As we're told throughout our time here at UNLV, if you could be doing anything else, you wouldn't be in film. I also want to thank my little brother Matthew for being there every time I got excited over a cut that worked flawlessly to every time After Effects would crash on me. Thank you for always being my hype man, especially when I needed it the most. I also want to thank my aunt, Drea. I was lucky enough to have seen you go through this program as I grew up. And I want to thank you for assuring my parents that film is a worthwhile endeavor. And most importantly, thank you for being a role model to me. Growing up, it was always a little discouraging, not really having anyone in the industry to identify with, but watching you accomplish all that you have and with everything that you represent, you will always serve as a reminder to me that our stories are worth telling. I want to thank all the faculty and staff in the UNLV Film Department. From the 48 to Spring Flicks to LVFF to Sundance to Cannes, we are so incredibly lucky to have the opportunities you've given us. I never thought in a million years that I'd ever direct, yet I was able to direct a short film for LVFF. You've given us a safe space to discover our own unique styles, as well as a safe place to fail and learn from our mistakes. You've created an environment and a community that feels like family, and I truly commend you all for that. I also want to thank my fellow colleagues for all of the experiences and opportunities we've given one another by working together. And even though as an editor, I don't get to spend much time with you on set, just know that I live vicariously through your dailies, and I'm always proud of all of the work that you guys do. It inspires me to give you the best cut that I can. Despite me and my fellow graduates leaving the program, this doesn't mean goodbye. Another thing we're told from the beginning of our film education is that we can't do this alone. So whether you're a freshman, starting out in this program, or a graduating senior, don't be a stranger. Reach out, let's work together. Once in UNLV film, always in UNLV film. And finally, I feel like I should be giving you guys some sort of advice. So before my freshman year of college, Drea texted me out of the blue Edward Dmytryk's 7 Rules of Film Editing. And this was before I even decided I wanted to go into editing. But the rule that always stood out to me was the 7th and final rule, which just so happens to be engraved on the inside of my class ring. Substance first, then form. I always saw this rule as a rule not just for editing, but for storytelling as well. Sure, there are some filmmaking techniques that are considered the right way to make a film, but you aren't Scorsese, you aren't Tarantino, or whatever director or filmmaker that you idolize, you're you. And only you can tell your story. So what I get from this particular rule is that as long as the integrity of the film is still held up, despite needing to break a rule, then break the rule. Those big name filmmakers are so big because they broke the rule in order to tell their story, so don't be afraid to tell yours. Thank you for an unforgettable 4 years, and I look forward to telling stories with you all soon.
And everyone who you saw just a moment ago was Drea Walter, and that was the person that Kai was mentioning in her speech. So Drea is here with us tonight and is an alum of the program. So we just wanted Drea to be able to wave since Kai mentioned her in such a wonderful way. Thank you, Drea, for everything you did for Kai and everything you've done for us and our program since you've finished.
Drea, don't cry.
We're all going to be crying the rest of the night after all of these speeches. Congratulations, Kai, and congratulations to you, Drea, for having such a wonderful niece. What I would like to do next, according to our program, is move on to our Write Stuff script competitions. This competition recognizes short scripts that are outstanding examples of the art of screenwriting. This year, our committee of faculty judges included Warren Cobb, Brett Levner, Sean Clark, and Clarence Gilliard. I'd like to thank the judges for their hard work in reviewing our script submissions. The Right Stuff is highly competitive. We received many memorable and creative entries, which made choosing the top 3 scripts extremely difficult. As in the Wegner Awards, submissions are read blindly without identifying information about the authors. 3rd place in the 2020 Right Stuff competition goes to Allison Hanna for Ash in Amber. And I'm going to say a few words about your script. Log line. When a young Amazonian girl's father returns from the rainforest after being missing for several days, she finds that he's not what he seems. This evocative, well-structured script expertly develops the perspective of a young girl as she watches her beloved, recently returned father try to reintegrate into village life. The nuanced scenes of family life, slow-burning suspense, and supernatural overtones create a compelling momentum that highlights the poignancy of father-daughter connections and the tragedy of their loss. Can we have a round of applause, please, for Allison Hanna for the Right Stuff screenwriting competition?
That's my girl!
Yay!
Congratulations.
Great script, Allison. You really deserve that, as does everyone, of course, who is winning this evening. On to 2nd place in the Right Stuff. Second place for the 2020 Right Stuff short script writing competition goes to The Emotions That Consume Us by Brock Nakamura Vieira. Do we have Brock with us this evening? Welcome, Brock. I would now like to take a moment to say a few words about your script. The log line is: a father tries to deal with his wife's infidelity while he helps his daughter fight cancer. With a helical structure that continually circles back to add layer upon layer of emotional challenge on a struggling father, The Emotions That Consume Us is a noirish and suspenseful journey through the stormy seas of complex family dynamics, leveraging the intensity of both paternal and romantic love and the extreme and seemingly justified actions that such feelings can sometimes prompt. Congratulations, Brock, on a wonderful script.
Thank you, everybody.
Go, Brock.
A very well-deserved honor. That brings us to first place. First place in the 2020 Right Stuff short script competition goes to Terminal 3 by Camilla Quinesh. Do we have Camilla with us this evening? Well, Camilla, I'm about to say a few words about your work. The log line of Terminal 3 is: at the airport's Terminal 3, Theo finds comfort in a stranger. With small, well-turned beats, casual but poignant conversation, and memorably, efficiently sketched characters and backstories, Terminal 3 masterfully and cleverly leverages the anonymity of an airport to craft a highly personal, specific narrative that develops a chance meeting in the seating area near a terminal exit into a meditation on life, family, regrets, and the promise of redemption. Congratulations, Camilla, on a wonderful script. Maybe we can all yay it for her. And she can Congratulations, Camilla. Those are our top 3 scripts for our Right Stuff competition. But as I mentioned, we received some amazing entries this year. So keep up the great work, everyone. We're looking forward to this getting bigger from year to year. And thank you again to Professor Warren Cobb for starting this competition. I know he's with us this evening. Okay, that brings us in our program to our mention of our Pacific Southwest Emmy nominees. And just make sure everyone is aware of the signal honor received by UNLV Film. So on May 2nd, the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences announced its nominees for the 2020 Emmys in the Pacific Southwest region. UNLV Film got 8 nominations, which is our best year ever. So I would like to take a moment to recognize the students who received those nominations. And I don't know if they are with us this evening, but people running things behind the scenes, if you happen to see their names as I am reading them, feel free to cut to them. So for I Exist, nominated for Best Film, Student Short Form Fiction Nonfiction, Allison Arson and Jemson Belozos. Nominated for Best Student Director, Allison Arson and Jemson Belozos. For Lost in the 80s, nominated for Best Student Long Form Fiction Nonfiction, Brandon Moles. Best Student Editor, Shane Pilar. Best Student Writer, also Brandon Moles. Congratulations to all of you for those nominations. And our other 3 films also nominated: Reflection, Best Student Photographer, Blake Gilmore. The Big Wish, Best Student Commercial, helmed by Nicole Peterson and Lily Campisi, but over 60 of our students worked on that film. The Lost City Museum for Best Student Video Essay by Spencer Holmes and Benjamin Van Alstine. Congratulations to all of you. Can we take a moment just to give a round of applause? Incredible work went into all of these films.
Yeah! Way to go!
Everybody! COVID. The winners will be announced on June 6th, and we hope and plan to be triumphant in all of these categories. So congratulations to all of you for your nominations. I would like to, at this moment, take a moment to introduce our next speaker, Shane Mark Gallo. He is our final student speaker this evening, and he is one of our outstanding spring 2020 graduates. Shane Mark Gallo is a filmmaker focused on directing, writing, and cinematography. He started the UNLV film program in 2016, and his biggest accomplishments are winning 3rd place at the UNLV 48-Hour Film Festival in 2018 and 2019. He has earned membership in the Honor Society of Phi Kappa Phi, and he is currently the president of Cinefems, an RSO that promotes equality, diversity, and representation in the film industry. Shane is very active in the film community, having volunteered at Nevada Women's Film Festival and the Las Vegas Film Festival for several years. He also participated as a director in the Las Vegas Film Festival's Young Cinema Lab in 2018 and Music Video Lab in 2019. Congratulations and welcome, Shane. Or the virtual floor is now yours.
Go Shane!
Hey everyone. Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought that we'd be celebrating our honor celebration virtually? Not me. What's up? I feel extremely honored to be speaking to you all today. First, I want to congratulate everyone who is graduating. We made it. Woo! This semester has been an interesting one for sure, and I'm glad you all persevered. Second, I want to say thank you to Heather and all of our dedicated film professors for making the second half of this semester work as best as they can. I know you and us students had different expectations for this semester, but I think getting together online gave everyone a new perspective and appreciation for each other. Thank you, professors, for being great mentors, and I appreciate all the knowledge and insight you have given us. Also, I want to say thank you to my mom and dad. I love you too. I started the film program in 2016, and I have to say that my past 4 years here at UNLV have been some of the best days of my life. I haven't felt more at place in my life than being in class and on set with all of you. I'm very thankful to have you as not only my classmates, but as my friends. The ones who have stayed true and kind and supportive all throughout college have a special place in my heart, and I owe any of my success to you. I have learned a lot from all of you on and off set, and I'm constantly impressed by your works. I have high hopes for every single one of you graduating. As film majors, we developed our ability to express our ideas and our feelings articulately. We have gained the tenacity to work 12-hour days. We have learned to collaborate with anyone, no matter how easy or difficult they could be, and we are expert observers. We have learned to see and analyze everything from color to composition to lighting, the whole mise-en-scène to the tiniest of subtext. We just see everything, and I believe that these skills are what makes us stand up from the rest. I know you all will be successful whether you have a clear vision of what you want to do or if you don't yet. There's always time to figure things out. Before college, I spent a couple of years working at different jobs, but I didn't feel like I was fulfilling my life purpose. So on my last job on the Strip, promoting some club, I walked off and enrolled in the film program. And ever since, film is what gives me meaning in life. I remember on some nights, driving home after set, I would tear up from feeling so happy and so lucky to be doing what I was doing, which is creating art with my friends. The quarantine may have ruined some of our immediate plans, but it hasn't ruined any of our dreams. If there's anyone capable of adapting and making the most out of things, it's the filmmaker for their ability to improv and problem solve. Over the years, it has been a real pleasure to see you all grow into the creative filmmakers you are today. I'm proud to be in this UNLV film family. You all are so creative and skillful. You should all be proud of how far you've come and what you've created. For everyone who will still be in school, I encourage you to take risks, stay true to yourselves, and get to know everyone. One of the main reasons I went to college was to find like-minded individuals who I can create films with, and I'm glad to say I found that and more. These individuals will be my lifelong friends. I know I will continue to create films with long after graduation. That said, I also say surround yourself with people that bring the best out of you. Self-doubt and being self-critical is normal, and it helps when you have good friends to reassure you. I've seen a lot of changes in the film department over the past years, and I have to say that the UNLV film program is looking better than it has ever been with its continuing innovations. I'm excited for what is in store for you all at UNLV. Again, congratulations to our film class of 2020 for all of your accomplishments. I'm excited to see the art you all create in the future, and I can't wait to see you all in person at graduation, whenever that will be. Thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Go Shay! Yeah, Shay.
Okay, next I wanted to focus on our Master of Fine Arts program and our 2 graduates for this year. The Master of Fine Arts in Writing for Dramatic Media is a 3-year program, a terminal degree in the art and craft of writing for performance. The primary focus of the program is on developing feature screenplays, but the candidates also produce television scripts, stage plays, and other work for evolving digital media. The graduate coordinator is Professor Sean Clark. Our Master of Fine Arts graduate for spring 2020 are Rudy Boromond and Kyle Ensrud, and we're going to take a few minutes to recognize each of them. They have provided statements on their time in the program. So first we have Rudy Boromond. Rudy was not born an unreasonable baby. Soon she turned into a cookie full of arsenic that many hated to take a bite out of, probably since the day she started speaking more than a paragraph. But she could talk to the imaginary audience in the long alleyways that were calling for her. The horse with 2 wheels and a great bike bell got saddled up and she rode many roads. No guns in her pocket, just candles and figurines. And the marbles were bullets that worked perfectly. She stopped talking too much when the chapters of life got serious. Revolution, war, injustice, pain, rejection, love, heartbreak, again, again, again. Memory loss, no words, silence. Cinema became her refuge. Those magnificent moments were the calling. That road was endless. In a desert far from home, she found a home among a gang of storytellers. They gave her inspiration, courage, and attention that went beyond only 1 paragraph. They wrote, rode, made spectacles, and told stories, even under the moonlight for passers-by. How glorious to be one of them, and how lucky to have the wisdom of the ultimate dude, the ace high, the Capitan. One day, she needed advice, and he said, "When the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. Take no prisoners. Are you a pirate or a farmer?" She said, "Definitely a pirate." "Then cowboy up," said Sean Clark, the wise man. "Rock and roll girl, go get 'em." And saddling up, she is. And now we have Professor Clark, who's going to say a few words about Rudy.
Well, she just said what I was going to say. I would just say she's the first and only Native Iranian that announced as aloud that she was a cowboy. And
Thank you.
I'm very proud of that.
Congratulations, Rudy, on all your outstanding achievements in the program. You've really you've had an amazing run here, and we look forward to working with you in future. And I believe you're going to be teaching 2 classes for us in the fall. So this is congratulations, but not goodbye.
Thank you.
Can we have a round of applause for Miss Rudy Boromond, everyone?
Way to go.
Love you, Rudy. And I saw that Jemson Belozos just joined. Jemson, we were congratulating you and Allison on your nominations for the Pacific Southwest Emmy. So congrats on that. Okay, we're going to go next to our second MFA graduate for 2020, Mr. Kyle Ensrud. During his time in the Writing for Dramatic Media program at UNLV, Kyle Ensrud indulged himself writing film reviews for the student paper, was humbled and rewarded teaching intro to screenwriting, and had the distinct pleasure of working with numerous graduate and undergraduate film students on projects like the Student Emmy-nominated film, Lost in the 80s, for which he wrote the original songs, and The Funeral Party, in which he can be briefly glimpsed in the background as an extra, which is incidentally the only place he belongs in front of the camera because he's a terrible actor. Papa Voodoo, a short film he wrote and directed during his time here, is rumored to be completed sometime in 2053. Though his days at UNLV have come to an end, his time in our hearts never will. And sometimes, on a quiet night, you can still hear his voice whispering on the wind, moving through the quiet desert chaparral, faintly calling, "Sean Clark was wrong about Pan's Labyrinth. It's a cinematic masterpiece." But of course, it's best to just ignore him and walk away. He'll just go on like that for hours, and everyone already knows that anyway. Professor Clark, a comment, please.
Yep. I would just like to say I'm so proud, Kyle, for being the only human in the history of the earth to get in more trouble in small town Minnesota than in Las Vegas.
Congratulations, Kyle. Can we all take a moment to applaud for Mr. Kyle Ensrud? Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kyle, and thank you very much, Professor Clark. Now we are moving to our keynote speech of the evening. So I would like to take just a moment to introduce the gentleman who will be speaking to us. It is my great pleasure to welcome Eduardo Mayen as our keynote graduation speaker for the 2020 Honors Celebration. A native of El Salvador, Eduardo Enrique Mayen started his professional career as a camera assistant on movies like 21 Grams, Alexander, and State of Play. He eventually moved up the ranks to cinematographer, and his body of work now includes From Dusk Till Dawn, the television show, Black Lightning, Love Means Zero, a 2019 Best Sports Documentary Emmy nominee, Future Man for executive producer Seth Rogen, and most recently, Cherish the Day for executive producer Ava DuVernay. Another important point, as you will hear in his speech, is that Eduardo Mayen is an alumni of the UNLV film program. We are so pleased and proud to have him with us today. Can we please have a round of welcoming applause for Eduardo Mayen? Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. As you can see, I'm in the jungle. I'm actually stuck here in quarantine in El Salvador, waiting for a flight to get back home soon. But I wanted to see all you guys. Thank you very much for having me. First of all, I just wanted to say hello to all the BAs, the MFAs, and the faculty and staff. I'm really honored to be speaking to all of you, my fellow running rebels, my beloved alma mater. I actually lived in the dorms for 2 semesters, and it's actually something that I miss now because I could just cross the street and get to an open bar, something that you can't do this right now. But to the graduating class, I remember being exactly where you are right now 18 years ago, the mix of feelings. You're excited, but at the same time, you're crapping your pants. So first things first, congratulations. Not everyone makes it this far. Think of all the right choices, the sacrifices that you had to make to get here. I commend you for them. Now let's talk about the big question, the only question. What now? And the only way I know how to address this is by telling you a little bit about my life journey, which has been a mix of serendipitous encounters, perseverance, vision for a person I wanted to become, something that I'm still working at to this very day, and lots of hard work. Lots of hard work. I was born during a civil war in a third world country. Not a perfect start for anybody, but that's what began to shape me. Since I had to stay indoors and I couldn't go out and play, I watched a lot of movies, and hence I fell in love with the cinema. And let me tell you something about true passion. That will be your beacon, and that will be your guide. It will help you overcome the obstacles that will get thrown at you. Because of this obsession, I became the weird kid that watched way too much TV and was full of useless information. So eventually, upon my graduation from high school in my home country of El Salvador, I had no clue whatsoever what to do with my life. I started business school, but I couldn't focus. I wasn't enjoying the work, and every day became a drag. So I dropped out. I had a very honest conversation with myself. The only thing I could see myself losing myself to was the love of cinema. That excited me. So I applied to film schools in Cuba and Mexico, but none of them took me. I don't think I was artsy enough for them. So that became the first test of my resolve. And since I had read somewhere that a young new director by the name of Quentin Tarantino had not gone to film school, but basically studied films by watching them while working at a video store, I decided to do exactly the same thing myself. I got a job at the only video store in my country that had an eclectic selection of films, Mr. Movie, and I got to work. There were some resources online that talked about important films and important filmmakers, so I watched those, but I actually watched it all. And the other cool thing about working at a video store is that you get to take the old movie posters home. So my bedroom became a small gallery and daily reminder of the dream I was chasing. I had a poster of Scorsese's Casino behind my bed, a Pulp Fiction one next to my TV VCR combo, and a From Dusk Till Dawn one in Spanish next to my closet. I was beginning to understand the different styles in filmmaking, and I wanted to acknowledge the ones I truly loved. Because I was following my muse and working behind this video store counter, I honestly believed that the universe conspired in my favor, and I had my first serendipitous encounter with a person who would become an ally, and still is to this day. This guy came in wearing an American cinematographer t-shirt, so that started a conversation. He happened to be a commercial director and not just any hack. He was a guy who put in all the work. He did all the research. His name was David Pinto. He invited me to visit his set, and I stayed for almost 3 years working as his assistant. It was at his company that I first saw an issue of American Cinematographer magazine and began to understand how a set worked and how what the different crew members did. One day, David got a big commission to direct a commercial for our airline carrier. And since it was a big responsibility, he decided to bring a cinematographer from Mexico, a 29-year-old kid by the name of Rodrigo Prieto, whom I became friends with. And I will circle back to this relationship later because he comes back into my story. What was important then was that this was my first time watching a full-fledged professional cinematographer do his thing. And that's when I knew. I was 20 years old and I received the most amazing gift. I had the realization of what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I finally had a concrete vision for myself. This is what I could chase through every obstacle and every test. This became my goal. It was also during my time working with David Pinto that I met another great ally, a person who literally changed my life, Professor Francisco Menendez, who happened to be friends with David and was visiting El Salvador to shoot a short film. So of course, I volunteered and did whatever was needed of me. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be on an actual movie set. For my help, Menendez was grateful, and he was incredibly generous by inviting me to UNLV and watch him direct in Vegas. So I did, and I slept in his guest room while we worked on his film Medio Tiempo, which was a co-curricular film project. This experience was incredibly profound in many levels. The students I met there during this shoot at UNLV were all passionate about making movies, and we were all learning and growing with guidance from professors specialized in a specific field and working with actual professional cinema equipment. So I made my decision there and then, and a year later, I got a student loan and I moved to Vegas to formally study filmmaking at UNLV. Since I knew I wanted to be a cinematographer, I made that the focus of all my efforts, and I started hanging out with then professor of cinematography, the great Michel Hugo, ASC. And through him, I started learning what made a cinematographer great. It was also through him that I learned about the masters, not just in cinema, but in photography and painting. Any book that he mentioned, I would consume. Any painting that he referenced, I would stare at for hours and try to decipher why it was so powerful. During my time at UNLV, I took all the required courses during the week, and on the weekends, I would shoot. No day off. If you needed a DP, I was your guy. I wouldn't say no to anything. I was able to practice my craft so much that eventually I was asked by Professor David Schmoller to shoot his film. I was incredibly flattered. In my final year of school, I had so much work in my portfolio that I started emailing frame drafts of some of my best work to my old buddy, Rodrigo Prieto, who in the last couple of years had become a cinematography superstar and was a true example of what you could do. As always, he was very graceful and very supportive. And when I told him that I was finally about to graduate, he asked me if I wanted to come and work with him as a camera intern on a movie called 21 Grams, which he was prepping at the time. So shy of a month of finishing school, and by permission of all my professors, including Professor Cobb, who processed all my insurance paperwork in record time. Thank you, Professor Cobb. I went off to be a camera trainee in a unionized professional Hollywood movie set. I learned so much. But let me tell you about being a trainee/intern. You don't make any money. So after 3 months, my brain was brimming with knowledge. My heart was full, but my bank account was completely empty. And with that, in a $50,000 debt, I moved to Los Angeles to sleep in my cousin's couch and make my next move. In LA, I really wanted to go to grad school at the AFI, but I just didn't have the cash. I already had another loan to pay and not a lot of money coming in. I felt incredibly lucky that I was able to land a part-time job at the stage of Mo Richardson Company, which barely helped me pay my loan, my food, and my bus pass. But it gave me an opportunity to network with all the cinematography fellows from AFI, because that's where they came to do their practical courses. So on the weekends, I would volunteer and work on their films in whatever capacity I could. And with a little bit of charm, I managed to get a copy of a list of all their required reading and all their required viewing. So I basically mirrored everything they did on my own time. If I couldn't go to AFI, I was going to create my own conservatory at home. I'm not going to deny that sometimes I would cry myself to sleep, overwhelmed by the task at hand, the sheer size of the mountain to climb. I would calm down by reminding myself of something that became my mantra. You are doing the work and you're servicing your dream. It was then that I truly started understanding the process of becoming, and I stopped looking at the summit. I just focused at the daily task at hand. I continued to grow by consuming books and films, but I also sharpened my skills as a camera assistant by doing all sorts of free gigs. Eventually, I did enough of these to collect days to join the Cinematographers Union as a camera assistant, which meant I could start working on bigger sets, even if it was at the bottom of the ladder. This step up also meant more money, but I was so used to not having any that I kept my lifestyle just as it was, and I put all my earnings into my student loan since I knew that that was slowing me down and even making me cautious. The sooner you can pay those off, the sooner you'll be free to do the jobs you want to do and not the jobs you have to do. So what did I do with my newfound freedom? I started working for free again, this time as a weekend cinematographer. During the week, I was a camera assistant, and on the weekends, I was experimenting with my new knowledge of camera and lighting. I also started practicing on how to communicate with my director and how to communicate with my crew, and more importantly, how to behave under pressure, which meant that by the end of my tenure as a weekend warrior, I had not only sharpened my skills as a cinematographer, but I was also able to start creating an on-set persona for myself. A captain of a ship that will demand from their crew, but will always inspire with example. Eventually, one of these short films I shot was selected by our camera union as one of the best photographed films shot by a union member, not classified as a director of photography at the Emerging Cinematographers Award. Unfortunately, this happened 2 years in a row. So although it was being acknowledged for my work, the cat was out of the bag and the phone stopped ringing for the camera assisting jobs. Luckily for me, all my student loans were already paid in full. So I was ready and unafraid to be poor again. So began yet another chapter in my life, that of a low budget, non-union feature film cinematographer. Again, I didn't turn anything down. You can check my IMDb for proof and you'll see gems of low budget horror and over the top action. From time to time, I was able to score legit small gigs shooting additional photography for some of my mentors, including Rodrigo. I was finally my own boss and living, in a way, the life I had imagined. Things were not perfect though. I had no union health benefits. I was 36 years old and still living with a roommate, and sometimes I had to go through my savings to pay for bills. But I continued to shoot, trusting the process of becoming. Then one day everything changed. My agent called. One of my heroes from the days at the video store wanted to meet me. Robert Rodriguez wanted to set up an appointment to talk to me. Someone somehow had given Robert my name as a young rising DP who deserved a break. An hour later, I found out who that someone was when my old friend Rodrigo sent me a text message saying, "Good luck with your meeting," followed by a smiley face. Luckily for me, Robert and I were cut from the same cloth, and we were able to break the ice by talking about classic and cult movies. Thank God for Mr. Movie. We talked about 45 minutes, and we showed each other our latest work. I showed him a little spec web series on my iPad, and he in turn showed me scenes from Sin City 2, which he was finishing post on. We shared laughs. There was definitely camaraderie. Eventually, I asked him what this was all about, so he pulled out his phone and showed me a rendering of a poster with the image of Eiza Gonzalez with vampire fangs and big bold letters that said, "From Dusk Till Dawn, the TV show." This is what I'm doing next, so I need a DP. Unfortunately, I haven't hired anyone new in almost 15 years. I totally played it cool, and I asked the questions I have now learned to ask directors. Their vision, opportunities, limitations. I wanted to sound as professional as I could. Then we shook hands and exchanged emails and said goodbye. As I drove home, I realized there's no chance in hell I'm getting this job. There's probably a line out the door for this opportunity. So fuck it. I worked all week, did my research, and based on the conversation, I created a lookbook with images, paintings, comic book renderings, which I knew he liked, and some of my favorite street photographers that I thought would inspire a look for the show. Under each image, I would include famous lines from the movie, which I still knew by heart, and which I thought would be perfect captions for the images. I emailed them to him with just a short little message that said, "I would be thrilled to work with you." I got nothing, complete radio silence for 2 weeks. Then one day my phone rings. It's an Austin number. It's him. He sounds enthusiastic. He says he loved meeting me. He can't stop looking at these images, and he thinks that they would make a perfect look for the show. And with that, he said, "I would be thrilled for you to join me. Come and shoot this thing." The very next week, I was in my rental car in Austin, typing the address on the GPS for Troublemaker Studios. I remember vividly going through security, proudly saying I was the new DP and this was my first day at work. As I pulled in and parked my car, the voice in the navigation system said, "You have arrived." To which I actually answered and said, "Nope, I'm only beginning." So with that, I'll try to answer the original question, what now? And all I have to say to you is enjoy the process of becoming and work your butt off to do so. I know everyone's going through a lot of hard, weird things lately, but believe me, I've been there. I was able to get through a 12-year civil war where going outside was considered to be dangerous. Use this time wisely and sharpen your craft. It will prepare you for what's coming your way. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great story. Great story.
Thank you.
It's an amazing story, and it has like real parallels right now with all of us quarantined. Thank you, Eduardo, for sharing everything you achieved. Thank you for your mentorship, Professor Menendez.
Absolutely.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you, UNLV.
Roll call and our tribute. This year, because we're all sort of stuck quarantined and we can't be together, the faculty, instructors, and staff thought that we should put something special together for all of our graduates. So we have this short tribute, which is about 3 minutes long, and I'd like to thank Professor Brett Levner for putting it together. We're thrilled to be able to present it, and we offer our heartfelt thanks to you, Professor Levner. Brett, thank you. So get ready, here it comes.
If you can keep your head when all about you
are losing theirs and blaming it on you.
If you can trust yourself when all people doubt you,
but make allowance for their doubting too.
If you can wait and not be tired by waiting.
Or being lied about. Don't deal in lies.
Or being hated. Don't give in to hating.
And yet don't look too good or talk too wise.
If you can dream and not make dreams your master.
If you can think, but not make thoughts your aim. if you can meet with triumph and disaster.
And treat those two imposters just the same.
If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken.
Twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools.
Or watch the things you gave your life to broken.
And stoop and build them up with worn out tools.
If you could make one heap of all your winnings
and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss.
And lose and start again at your beginnings.
And never breathe a word about your loss.
If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew
to serve your turn long after they are gone.
And so, hold on when there's nothing left in you.
Except the will that says to them, hold on.
If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue,
or walk with royalty, nor lose the common touch.
If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you.
If all humans count with you, but none too much.
If you can fill the unforgiving minute
with 60 seconds worth of distance run.
Yours is the earth and everything that's in it.
And your legacy will have just begun.
Congratulations, UNLV film graduates of the class of fall 2019 and spring 2020.
With very best wishes from our faculty, instructors, and staff.
You are part of the UNLV film family, now and always.
Thank you to all the UNLV Film Department members who recorded these videos from home during the coronavirus pandemic of 2020.
Let's have a round of applause for our graduates. Thank you to all of our faculty, and staff participating in the video. We had 100% participation. Everyone who teaches and our full-time staff, so thank you everyone. And graduates, you've been with us all this time and we're sad at the prospect of you leaving. I know we're apart from each other right now, but we have this moment to share and we'd like to offer you a chance to sort of virtually be on stage as we call your names. And I don't know, you might all be on different devices, but this is a list of our Bachelor of Arts in Film graduates for 2019. That includes fall 2019 and spring 2020. The names that have an asterisk by them there are a few students who minored in film, and the names that are in bold are those who graduated with high honors. So what we'd like to do is read. Congratulations! We would like to read each of your names. Professor Menendez is going to read the name as I hold it up, and then if you are here, we are going to try to cut to you so that you can wave and be on video and have your moment. So we might have a few kind of stops and starts as we're just making sure we don't miss anyone who is here. So without further ado, I'm going to get my names ready. And we're going to begin. Professor Menendez, are you ready to read the names?
I am.
Okay. We're going to go alphabetically.
Hillary Aguilar.
I just want to make sure that we have a moment for each person to just take note of the fact of them completing their degrees and how significant that is. So Hillary, congratulations.
Hilardo Andres.
Make sure we do it equally. Okay, and Hilardo. Professor Menendez has to read the name, everyone. Okay, Professor Menendez, go ahead.
Danny Baez.
Jaden!
Oh!
Hey. Congratulations.
Thank you guys.
Yes, Jenna!
Michael Beard.
Congratulations, Michael.
Brooke Burton. Evelyn Kota. Clark Cody. Ricardo Covarivas. Samuel Crittenden.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Michaela Dodson.
Yes, Michaela!
Neil Fotheringham. Andrew Franks.
Congratulations. And I believe he should be here.
James Martello. We appreciate you, sir. Talia Gavich. George Gonzalez. Patrick Gonzalez. Kyla Cristina Guerrero. Charlene May Guevara.
Yes, Charlene!
Carlos Gutierrez. Jeremy Hall. Haley Hayhurst. Molly Higgins.
Yes, Molly!
Danielle Hill. Ryan Huffman. Rebecca Jimenez. Andrew Ketchum.
Ooh, it's hot.
Krista Leach. Ching Lee. Alyssa Lopez.
Congratulations.
Christina McHale. Allison Miranda.
I'm gonna cry.
Mr. Cody Mixon.
Go, Cody!
Kristen Peppers. Monica Takeda Manzanilla. Justin Polo. Cassidy Rothschild.
That's my girl! Yeah!
Johan Rucker. Efraín Salas. Imani Isali. Sean Singer. Vincent Troglia. Lorenzo Torino. Sierra Tudor. Michaela Valoria.
Down to the V's, everyone.
David Vogel. James Warren. Stephanie Waskowitz. Angelica Williams. Last but not least, Nicholas Sabarte.
Congratulations, graduates.
Done! Well done! Get it!
Get it! We've come to the end of our evening, and I just want to say I miss all of you so much, and I love the speeches that you gave. And
yes,
UNLV really is a family, but so even though we're not together, I still think of us as together, and we're going to be here for you now and always. As we said in our video, I'd like to thank everyone who helped so much preparing the honors celebration: Francisco Menendez, Ben Van Alstine, Warren Cobb, and the amazing Brett Levner. We couldn't have pulled this together without all of their hard work. Let's have just a moment of applause for them.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.